that was a super lengthy intro, and y'all know how I feel about lengthy intros, so let's try that again. Hey, party people. Let's talk about the future of fashion and careers in fashion. I want to talk about, first of all sectors in the industry will change, are changing, are ever changing, and that's not just exclusive to fashion. We're all like, the whole world is always changing. But I want to talk specifically about what sectors I think will thrive with changes, with advances in technology and what those advances are, and which sectors I think will struggle bus through to the end. Like, listen, if you are really super good at whatever it is you do, you're fine. Okay. There will always be, no matter if I think an entire sector of the industry is dying, if you are queen, prima ballerina, whatever, you'll be fine. I'm talking about more in general for the masses. Okay. So let's talk about which sectors I think will continue to be relevant. And that really is design and development. And I'm talking about designers, tech designers, pattern makers, sewers, anybody who is involved in the making of the thing. Listen, we all talk about how fashion is about selling dreams and, fashion is selling about fantasies, but literally, fashion is about selling clothes and accessories. Like on a very base, literal level. If you don't have the goods, like literal, like clothing and accessories and jewelry and purses and t-shirts, you're not selling anything, okay? So that's the fashion industry. We sell tangible items, okay? And there will always be a need for people who know how to make the core product, the shoes, the jeans, like whatever it is. We're going to need that. And so if you want to crunch down on that, expand your technical knowledge. I did a whole video on this last year or the year before that. But AI is a tool. AI is not going to take over a designer's job or a pattern maker's job. AI is a tool to be used for various sectors of the fashion industry, one of them being design. I'm going to drop a link if I can find it. Diesel did this whole project where they were using AI generated designs to come up with new Diesel designs. And they put out this 2-minute video on what they did. And essentially, so much of the video is after they had AI generated designs, it was human hands cutting the fabric and making the patterns and sewing it up and steaming it. Like, AI is a tool for the process, but you need to know the whole overall process. If you're really going after job security, tech design is where it's at. Tech design and pattern making. Pattern makers, generally speaking, make more money than your average designer. The more you know about the nitty gritty of the making of things, the more job security you're going to have. There are more jobs like that because fewer people want to do those jobs. Okay. No matter what industry you work in, the more job security lies in areas people don't want to do, like sourcing. Okay, it's like a designer's like, well, I want this very specific kind of crunchy fabric that doesn't feel crunchy but looks crunchy, and you as the sourcing manager have to sit there and take notes on what? You want what? Like, sourcing is very hard. Okay. Anyone who's tried to find the fabric of their dreams knows how hard sourcing is. Production management, it's kind of thankless. It's absolutely not glamorous. It's a lot of pro formas and shipping invoices and taxes. But those are the jobs that people don't want as much, but they're important. And let me tell you, if you want to own your own brand someday and you have a background in working in production or tech design, like more logistics and technology based, you're going to be set up. You're going to have way more skill set to move into your own brand. And, you could be at home, like working on your design development, take my Patreon class, whatever, work on your own, like aesthetic and your design development, but build those skills and contacts and like how to fill out forms. That's a skill all by itself, how to fill out forms. Okay. Learn all that on the job and then build your brand. Okay. But those areas are going to be the ones where there are more jobs because fewer people want to do them. I know that more and more all the time, and it comes and goes in waves. We talk about Sims, we talk about dressing video game characters, avatars. We talk about living in this like avatar world where you're dressing your characters, and that's great. Fantastic. I love a fashion fantasy. But the reality is people are always going to need clothes to put on their physical bodies. And so this is an area where there will always be jobs. There will always be room for people who are good at what they do. AI is not going away, and there will definitely be more job roles in the future that are focused on working with AI. Because again, AI is a tool. Okay, it's not a replacement, and you need people to learn how to use AI. Okay, as it is now, in order to get these crazy funky designs from like apps like the New Black, or I can't even keep track of all the apps anymore. But in order to get those renderings, you have to teach AI, you have to put in like the right descriptors, the right prompts to get you the results you're looking for. Okay. Because again, AI can't read your mind. And you know what? Good. I don't want AI to read my mind because that's creepy. So you're going to need people who know how to work with AI, to work with technology, to put in the prompts, to use AI to do the right kind of research for their brand. So there is going to be new job roles that are very extremely niche technology based around AI. So beyond technology, okay, so anything technology based is going to grow and thrive. Another category will be sustainability. This idea that incorporating some sort of sustainable aspect to your business or your product as an option is no longer a thing. Like, get with the program, people. Like, you have to source good materials. You have to look into ethical factories. You have to figure out a way to give back, whether, there are brands that give like 1% of their profits to specific charities. They do buyback programs where they donate secondhand jeans to be used as housing insulation after the fact. Brands develop secondhand programs so that people are giving away their secondhand clothes. Other people are buying their secondhand clothes and they're getting discounts on future clothes. So there's more like that stigma of wearing secondhand is removed. Like, you have to incorporate these ideals into your brand. And if you're a new brand, this is the best time to start is now. It's like driving, okay? You got a zippy little Honda Civic with a nice little neat turn radius. And you can go anywhere. You can fit into all the little parking spaces. All right? Smart car, Miatas, whatever. But you got a Mack truck and you're bringing like a Walmart shipment in. You got to be doing like a 7-point turn anytime you want to come around, okay? These big companies that have been around forever who think sustainability is a fad, they're going to need consultants and to come in and be like, okay, here's how you steer this massive Mack truck into the future, okay? And so learning about sustainability, how to incorporate sustainability into your brand or to help other people into their brand, like, that is definitely going to be a sector that grows and thrives. People talk about like consultants being like the bad word or whatever, like, oh, consultants, but sometimes they're necessary. Sometimes you just have a company full of dinosaurs and you just need someone, not necessarily young, but someone who is youthful and future thinking in their mind to come in and be like, hey, we have enough microplastics in our water. Let's go. I think another sector that is going to grow and thrive and change is marketing, and social media is one aspect. I think that brands are finally starting to take social media more seriously. It used to be that they stuck the Instagram crap to the intern that didn't get paid. Okay. And now it's like, oh, it's like a real thing we should do because it brings in real customers and real attention to our brand. That's so hilarious. Who would have thunk it? Like, lots of people thought it, okay? And so that's changing. I think that with all this technology, with AI, with 3D renderings, with all these things, that marketing is going to change a ton. How you market your brand. Okay. I heard this term the other day. Lord, I kind of laughed, but I heard this term retailtainment. Okay. And so it's this sector where marketing people, they are, PR, all this stuff, they are creating these new experiences in the retail space to connect with customers. That sector, and they're always going to be looking for more creative innovators in that space where they can bring technology, bring fresh ideas to interact with customers. And technology is really going to change the space of marketing. Every few years, this conversation of, are runways worth it anymore? Are we still doing runways? Are runways sustainable? Like, the excitement of the runway is never going to change. It'll change in maybe 100 years. It used to be runways were for couture houses showing their new collection to their clients, and they were more exclusive, often more sedate, and now they're like a 3-ring circus at some places, like the bigger brands with the celebrities and the waiting for certain celebrities to show up, and the cameras and the editors that have like cult-like status, and the style, influencers, that whole shebang. And so nothing is really going to replace that spectacle for a long time. So if you work in the field of event production, runway work, music, lighting, setup, like all those things involving runway work, you can stay there probably. Okay. But if you want to expand into new retail experiences, retailtainment, go look that up. If you're in that space, start thinking about it. Start thinking about new ways for companies to interact with their customers that feels fun and fresh, but still genuine. Okay. Not everything is going to be make money immediately. Okay. But building relationships so that customers are trusting the brand, believe in the brand, start backing the brand first with their thoughts and emotions, and later on with their dollars or their yen, or their euros. I think illustration will change a lot, but will continue to be a sector. Fashion illustration really comes and goes. If you study the history of fashion illustration, it used to be, before photography was so inexpensive and accessible and widely available, illustration was kind of the way to go in terms of a lot of advertising. And now it comes and goes. Like for a while, photography is the trend, and a lot of it is cool tricks with cameras. And then for a while, like illustration is the trend. So illustration always comes and goes in waves, but there will always be people who appreciate that hand done feel and look, and the talent that goes behind a paintbrush or a pencil. And so, yeah, get good, practice a ton. You should watch that interview I did with Marcus Kahn, who is the guy behind Draw a Dot. You should join the Draw a Dot Patreon. I think it's this weekend where he is interviewing Jason Wu with his Patreon group. He invited me to that because he loves me. I love him too. And yeah, so find a community, find an agent like Marcus Kahn, get your work out there, practice your skills a ton. There will always be room for cream of the crop illustrators who really put their name out there. Okay. Here's the thing. It's like a lot of people, they say things like, oh, well, this guy, he's only famous because, one famous guy hired him, and like marketing and publicity and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, I know those people too. But here's the thing. This one girlfriend, she posted something on Twitter. It's very egotistical to think that you should become well known without you putting your name out there. Like, you should expect someone to notice you over here just humbly doing your work. That's very egotistical to think that people and quite frankly, Delulu, to think that you can just be in your corner of this massive planet with billions of people just doing your thing, and we're expected to come find you when you don't promote yourself. You have to promote yourself. That's part of the work. It's very egotistical to think, yeah, if I build it, they will come. No, you have to put yourself out there. Let's get into categories that I think are going to struggle bus in the future. And one of them, speaking of illustration, is photography. Here's the thing is more AI is being developed so that these sort of like catalog photography, lookbook photography will no longer be necessary. And these AI tools are getting better all the time. Things like Botica, ZMO. And so along with that, catalog models will also be a sector that kind of collapses because you just don't need these kind of regular everyday models anymore, or that industry is going to shrink a lot. And you might be thinking, does anyone go into modeling wanting to be a catalog model? Let me tell you, okay? Any model will tell you that catalog work, lookbook work, everyday schmo work pays so much better than runways. And we're not talking about the supers, okay? Like I said before, you're cream of the crop. There will always be space for you. There will always be supermodels. There will always be like those top looks. But the modeling industry is so much bigger than that. So much. And you're like, Zoe, I can list dozens and dozens, hundreds of names because I keep up with models. Yeah, you still have not even listed 1% of the entire modeling industry that exists in all the corners of the world who do this catalog work, who shoot lookbooks, who shoot like their country's version of JCPenney, like all the everyday stuff. The fit models are different because you're using a three-dimensional person, a human being wearing your clothes. But anything that requires very basic photography, AI is going to take that over. And that means the photographers who pay rent with these kinds of very boring but bread and butter gigs, they're going to be struggling as well. Okay, there will always be room for beautiful editorial work, but that work is very limited. That work is very limited. The reason why I'm not overly worried about AI taking over fashion is because in fashion design, we are always working with tangible product, okay? We eventually have to take these ideas and make them into tangible things. And robots cannot sew. We already had this conversation. People tried to stump me by sending me videos of like these automated systems. But hi, there were human hands running these machines. And so, yeah, these machines exist that they can do multiple processes in one step, and that's great. But you're still seeing human hands run the machine. Okay, it's basically a very complicated sewing machine because human hands are still running it. Okay, so because in design and development, we're still taking AI stuff and bringing it into tangible product. Whereas photography and illustration, we are talking about continuing to stay in a 2D space. And so, yeah, the whole illustration, it's going to be difficult. But I think people are going to get more and more savvy about being able to tell apart art versus AI renderings. But when it comes to like everyday photography for product shots, I don't think people are going to care whether it's a AI rendering of the product or an actual photograph. Another sector I think will struggle bus and already is struggle busing is journalism. And that includes, fashion news organizations and also magazines. I mean, they've been struggling for a long time. Vogue.com set up a pay subscription model. People balked at that. They wanted it for free. Everyone wants everything for free. The journalists running magazines and news sites, they also have to somehow keep their doors open with ads, with subscription. It's like do I have the answer for how that's going to be fixed? I do not. But fashion journalism is definitely a sector that we cannot afford to have go away. We absolutely need to keep updated on the industry around the world and keep abreast of how world events affect the fashion industry and vice versa. If you can afford it, pay for something. like I do these runway reviews, and I always use the Vogue Runway app. Okay, everyone asks me what app I'm using. It's the Vogue Runway app, and I pay for it. Okay, I pay their yearly subscription for it. So, if you can afford it, just pay people for their work. Pay people for their work. That's what it is. Another sector that I think will be going away is trend forecasting. Trend forecasting came about when runway shows were less accessible. And I'm not saying everyone can go to the shows now. It's that everyone can via the internet. Lots of brands do live streams, or they post videos of their runway shows after the fact. They post tons of pictures. Places like Women's Wear Daily, Vogue, like all these places that review runway shows, they post pictures and their reviews on their online sites. Runways are more accessible to us than ever. And it used to be trend forecasters. They would go to the shows and they would take notice of what was being popular. Okay. They'd be like, oh, everyone's doing like, Marimekko knockoff flower prints, giant flower prints. Okay. That's the future. And they would come home and they would put these trend, forecasting reports together and tell all the one rung below brands, contemporary, junior, moderate brands, like, all the designer brands are doing Marimekko knockoffs. You should also do a Marimekko knockoff. And then all the contemporary and cheaper brands would do Marimekko knockoffs. The fashion industry doesn't work like that anymore. Okay, first of all, we have access to runway shows. Second of all, fast fashion literally just lifts things and regurgitates stuff at the speed of light. Okay? And number 3, we're not working so slowly that, contemporary brands are one season behind. They might take cues and dilute them for their next company, but it's not as direct as it used to be. It's not as slow as it used to be. Also, direct-to-consumer brands are extremely agile, and they see a trend, and they hear the whispers in the water, and immediately they're like, we're putting this out. We're putting this out. We're putting this out in the new colors. Like, immediately. And so because of all these factors coming together, okay, like the old school style of trend forecasting, there's not a demand for it anymore. And only the really big ones exist, like WGSN. It used to be there are a lot of smaller trend forecasting companies, but not anymore. Okay. So I don't know what they're going to do, what kind of spaces they're going to be moving into, how they need to pivot to make themselves relevant. This whole idea also of following someone else's vision is a thing of the past. In the 90s and before, fashion designers were like dictators who told women how to dress, who told them what to wear. And we don't have that relationship with designers anymore. It's a lot about the back and forth between the brand and the customer, and what the customer wants matters. And so this idea of the designer being king, dictating what we're going to wear, has also like kind of removed the authority of trend forecasters who were like the go-between. Like, yeah, so the king said that we're all wearing Marimekko knockoffs next season. And, all the contemporary designers be like, okay, Marimekko. This video not sponsored by Marimekko. So trend forecasting is an industry that needs to evolve, and it needs to pivot hard to stay relevant. All right, so those are my thoughts on the future of fashion in terms of careers and sectors that will grow and sectors that will struggle. Drop me your comments below. I always know that when I do a kind of a controversial think piece sort of video like this, I'm just going to get a lot of people who disagree with me. And I am super cool with that. Except if you are a jerk, I am not cool with that. So feel free to disagree with me respectfully in the comments below. Please give this video a thumbs up if you learned something new today. Share, subscribe, all the ways you show me love. Drop me your video requests in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.